Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 24 playthrough of the New York Yankees. We are just past the trade deadline in the 2024 season, and it's been a great year on the field for the Yankees so far. We've got a 10-game lead over the Rays in the AL East, and we are also in a pretty heated battle at this point for the best record in baseball. We're a game up on the Twins, and looks like we're at this point 5 games up on the Cubs, but they're not even the best record in the National League anymore. That belongs to the Braves, who it looks like we're up 4 games on. So definitely feel like the team is in a real good position to, at the very least, have a first-round bye in the playoffs when the playoffs begin about 2 months from now. But certainly would like to maintain that best record in baseball. Only issues so far that are a big concern as we get closer to the playoffs is that Giancarlo Stanton and Clark Schmidt are both gone for the year, and Carlos Rodon has been out basically since right before the All-Star break with some shoulder inflammation. Hopefully we'll get him back before the end of the month. Did make a trade right before the trade deadline to bring Dre Jameson on. Felt like we needed another decent major league starter with Schmidt gone for the year and Rodon banged up pretty seriously at the time. Jameson has not gotten off to a good start with us, 0-2 with a 12.15 ERA over 6 2/3 innings. But hopefully as he settles into the Bronx, we'll get a little bit more productivity out of him. And hopefully also Davy Garcia, our 4 and 5 starters right now. And unfortunately, we've lost 2 of our first 3 games in the month at home against the Blue Jays. Did bounce back to at least capture the final game of the series. Going on the road for 4 games to Boston this week, and then we've got 3 at home against the Marlins. You see, we don't play Tampa Bay at all this month. Not that I'm viewing them as a particular threat for the division, given that we've still got a pretty sizable lead. We will only have 1 series left with them, 4 games at home towards the end of September. So probably not going to mean too much at that point. They have gotten our lead down to 8 as they've won 4 in a row while we've been losing 2 of 3 to the Jays. But still would think that it would be a surprise if those games at the end of the season are really for anything other than the Rays trying to maintain their lead for the wild card. And definitely not the greatest start to the month for the Yankees at this point. Lost 3 out of 4 in Boston. We did take 2 out of 3 against Miami. Fortunately, the Rays have cooled down a little bit, so our lead over them is still pretty solid at this point. Got Cody Bellinger banged up, but doesn't look like that's anything that's going to linger. And we're still up 7.5 on the Rays at this point, so they've made another half game up on us over the past week. That's not a huge issue. You can see, though, that we are really in a battle at this point with the Twins and the Braves for the best record in baseball, with the Cubs also lurking a little further behind. Right now, we're percentage points ahead of both of those teams, but certainly going to be a battle, and hopefully we're good enough to handle it. Team hasn't been playing great here in the month of August, as I mentioned. Hopefully this upcoming week with 3 at home against Seattle and then 4 on the road in Houston, we can turn things around a bit, although Seattle and Houston are in the middle of a battle for the AL West, so certainly not going to be easy to face off against those 2 teams. And we did win our first game against Seattle, and Rodon is now healthy. We're probably going to give him at least 2 starts in AAA before bringing him up, but still should hopefully have him making 1 start at least at the major league level in the month of August before hopefully he can stay healthy in September and be completely ready to go by the time we get to the playoffs. And it ended up being a decent week for the Yankees. We swept Seattle and we split the series with the Astros on the road, going on the road to Colorado this week and then Texas after that before we're home for the Red Sox and the Dodgers to finish off the month of August. I had mentioned earlier we were probably thinking about pitching Carlos Rodon 2 games in Scranton Wilkes-Barre, but he went 8 innings, struck out 8, 3 hits. He did walk 4 in his first performance there where they had him go 122 pitches. Would say that he probably doesn't need another start down there, so we're going to sim ahead 1 day till he's had 5 days of rest. We did lose to the Rockies, so we'll check in on the standings very quickly. Up 8 on Tampa Bay, so still kind of just hanging out there, and we are in a flat-footed tie right now with the Twins for the best record in baseball. And with Rodon ready to come back, we've got a decision to make, and we are going to waive and DFA Deivi Garcia again. He's been pretty effective as a 5th starter for us, 6-3 with a 3.71 ERA. But we just made that trade for Dre Jameson, and even though he hasn't been good with us, certainly think he's got a more impressive skill set overall than Deivi Garcia. So hopefully no one will pick up Garcia, and we can get him back onto our AAA roster. But certainly want to get Rodon back into the rotation and hopefully getting tuned up for the playoffs as soon as possible. He slots right in as our number 1 starter, even ahead of Garrett Cole now that he's back and completely healthy. Also going to make one more move here. Jason Dominguez, one of our better prospects, has had a monster year in AA where he hit .332 with 18 homers and 199 at-bats. And then in AAA, he's hit .294 with 11 homers in 211 at-bats. Certainly seems like he could be a useful potential bat for us down the stretch. So we are actually going to add him to the 40-man roster. You can see typically I run a less than 40-man roster. I don't know why. I just don't see a need to put guys on it until it's absolutely necessary, but do want to make sure, particularly if we end up with some injury issues in the playoffs, that Jason Dominguez is eligible to be a participant if he comes up in a couple of weeks and does really well, and or we have some injuries down the stretch and feel like we need him. Want to make sure that there's no questions about his eligibility to be on the playoff roster for us. And we've made it to September roster expansion. Looking back at the last week and a half or so of August, was kind of a not so great month for the Yankees. We lost 2 out of 3 to Colorado. Then we did sweep Texas and sweep Boston, but we've lost the first 2 in our series against the Dodgers. Checking in on the team statistics, you can see the 16-12 record, .571 winning percentage for the month of August was the worst month the Yankees have had this season so far. Still ranked first in the American League in runs scored and first in runs allowed. So our 84-45 record is actually 3 games below our Pythagorean expectation. So still been a really nice season as we head into the final weeks of the season. We're up 9 still on the Rays for the division, so we only lost 1 game to them over the course of the month. And with that 84-45 record, we're now up 3.5 on the Twins for the best record in the American League. The Braves are still lurking, though. We're only a half game up on them for the best record in baseball as we get close to the end of the season. But being September 1st, we're going to have to make a couple decisions about who we'd like to call up and join our expanded roster. And we are going to bring up Jason Dominguez. Is going to finish with a .306 average and 13 homers and 245 at-bats in AAA. So for the year between Double-A and Triple-A at this point, he's got 31 homers, 92 ribbies, and a batting average well over 300 combined at the two levels. Viewed as the number 69 prospect in baseball at this point. So not a lot left for the 21-year-old to prove in the minors. We're going to bring him up and think that he could certainly be giving the likes of James Outman and Cody Bellinger. He could be pressing them for starting time in center field without a doubt. And for the other guy bringing up to the major league team as far as September roster expansion, we're going to let Yandris Gomez, who almost made the team out of spring training. He's had a 3.50 ERA with 20 saves in Scranton this year. Not a lot left for him to prove there. Certainly has excellent major league stuff. Nice movement on his pitches. The control isn't optimal, but as a potential reliever for us, I think he'll be really good at the major league level. And he certainly potentially also is in the mix for a starter for us longer term. Not optimal with the 40 stamina, kind of a 5-inning pitcher likely, but certainly with a pretty impressive 4-pitch arsenal led by a world-class fastball and an excellent slider, throws in the high 90s. Really interested in seeing what he can do for us at the major league level as well. And it looks like Aaron Boone's really interested in seeing what Gomez can do as well, because he's got him slotted into a setup role right alongside Jalen Beeks. So he's going to get thrown right into the middle of it over the last month of the season. We'll see what he can do, and hopefully we'll also get to see a little bit of what the great young center field prospect Jason Dominguez can do at the major league level as well. And as far as the lineup, with the nice lead that we have in the division, we're going to ensure that Jason Dominguez is out there every day. He's going to be playing right field against both right-handed and left-handed pitching. Allow Aaron Judge to continue as the DH for us. Obviously, Judge has got a very nice glove out in right field, but he's fragile at this point. And with the fact that we're going to be missing Stanton, just can't afford to have another injury to Judge. Those of you who were watching us last season may remember that in the playoffs, both Judge and Stanton were hurt by the ALCS and out for the year, and certainly did not help our chances of winning the ALCS without both of those players. And as it turned out, we did end up losing the ALCS and not making it to the World Series. And although Judge doesn't seem a threat to break his record of 62, and it might even be a struggle to get to the 57 home runs he hit last season, after back-to-back MVP awards in 2022 and 2023, he's easily leading the league in home runs and ribbies right now, and his .314 batting average is only 7 points behind Adley Rutschman of the Orioles. So a chance at a triple crown perhaps for Judge if he's able to string together a lot of hits over these last 3.5, 4 weeks of the season. And over this first week in September, we're going to finish off the series against the Dodgers, who have now won 6 in a row, including 2 against us. And they're kind of getting in the mix for the best record in baseball also. You know, they're still behind the Braves in the National League by a pretty similar amount to how far the Twins are behind us. Speaking of the Twins, we've got a 3-game series with them this week, and then we're going to finish off against the Diamondbacks. So the Dodgers and the Twins will both be pretty significant matchups for us. Fortunately, all 4 of those games are at home, and hopefully we can avoid the sweep today against the Dodgers. And then we'll go on the road at Arizona to finish off the first week of September. And a potential minor injury issue here, reliever Jalen Beeks, mild shoulder inflammation. Supposedly only going to lay him up for a week, but we'll be extra conservative at this point of the season and put him onto the IL. Should be back in time to hopefully get a game or 2 in over the final few games of the season. But with him set down, that'll give us an opportunity to bring David Garcia back up. Certainly we'll think that he'll end up in a relief role at this point. I don't want him over Jameson, but we'll see what Boone thinks about it. Yep, and he wants David Garcia in a long relief role too. So Gomez so far is our setup man. He's only pitched one game. He got a W, pitched a third of an inning. So been reasonably successful so far, but hard to make a big pronouncement on a third of an inning. So the week ended up going reasonably well for the Yankees, although we did lose the final game of the series to the Dodgers. We took 2 out of 3 against Minnesota, and then 2 out of 3 on the road against Arizona. Got the Angels and the Orioles coming up this week, taking a look at the standings. Angels are our last place team, and the Orioles are only ahead of the Red Sox, so 2 relatively easy matchups for us. Our lead on the streaking Rays, though, is down to just 6.5. They've won 8 in a row, so they're still lurking, and I guess there is a legitimate chance now that 4-game series is going to mean something. Certainly would expect that we're going to go into it with a large lead, but 4 games in a row, they could certainly make some ground up on us. Still are clear of the Twins by 3.5 at this point for the best record in the AL. And we are in a tight battle with the Braves and the surging Dodgers for the best record in baseball. 2 games up on the Dodgers right now, but we are actually a half a game behind the Braves. Mentioned that Judge pretty much should have home runs and ribbies locked up at this point. 7 points behind Rutschman for the AL batting title. Maybe our pitchers can help Judge a bit by shutting down Rutschman in the game that we've got this week. And we also actually have another player chasing after a Triple Crown. Garrett Cole leading the league in ERA, tied for the league lead in wins, and is second in strikeouts, only 7 behind Jacob deGrom. So would think that in all likelihood both Judge and Cole will end up leading the league in 2 categories rather than 3. But they both have legitimate shots at a Triple Crown here as we head into the final 2.5, 3 weeks of the regular season. And it was another good week for the Yankees. Took 2 out of 3 against the Angels and 2 out of 3 against the Orioles. So we've won 4 consecutive series at this point. Home against Milwaukee for 3, and then that big 4-game series against Tampa Bay before going on the road for the final week of the season. So probably not going to be critical games against Tampa Bay since we have stretched the lead out to 9 games at this point. On Milwaukee with a 62-81 record, would hope that we can do some damage against them. You can see Judge has dipped back a bit, his batting average down to .311, so he's 10 points behind Rutschman and has at least 3 people that he would need to get past over these final 2 weeks of the season to win a batting title. So certainly think the odds of him doing that are getting lower and lower. And since we've been so cautious with him, playing him at DH this year, you can see he's not one of the top 3 players in the American League in terms of WAR, which probably will also derail his pursuit of a 3rd consecutive MVP award, but still has had a big-time season for us. Checking in on Garrett Cole. Right now, he does have the pitching Triple Crown. He passed deGrom, 244 strikeouts, 17 wins, and a 2.48 ERA, so it will be interesting to see what Cole does this coming week. He just pitched yesterday, 114 pitches. Presumably he got the W in that game. Actually, no, that was a loss. He had won one before, but he struck out 19 batters in the 2 games he pitched last week. Got a W to go to 17-3, and then an L to go to 17-4. That was the game that really spiked his ERA up. 7 runs, all earned over 5 2/3 innings, pushed the ERA up from 2.22 to 2.48. So still leads the league, but another start or 2 like that, and he could definitely lose the Triple Crown that is close to within his grasp at this point. And the good news here is that Beeks is ready to come off of the IL. The bad news, as you can see, Garrett Cole injured, diagnosis pending. So that's just not cool. And of course, with Aaron Boone as the manager, I can't control the strategy settings, so I haven't been able to put players on a pitch count or anything. So after losing Aaron Judge last year, about a week and a half before the playoffs started, the potential to be losing Garrett Cole this year at a pretty similar time frame is definitely annoying. Take a look at what he did in that last game. He did go 5 1/3 innings, so it wasn't like he got completely blew something out on his first couple pitches of the game. But we'll see what happens. Looks like they pulled him with 83 pitches. The ERA is up to 2.54. Not that the chase of that Triple Crown matters all that much compared to the injuries ahead of the potential playoffs, but he's one strikeout ahead of DeGrom, tied in wins, and he's still got the ERA title. So obviously much more important now that he's just going to be healthy and ready for the playoffs. Judge is now 18 points behind Rutschman for the AL batting title with a week to go, so pretty unlikely that he's going to get by him. We're up 11 on Tampa Bay. Obviously, we've clinched a playoff spot, magic number down to 2 for the division, and we are up 7.5 games on the Twins at this point for the best record in baseball. So things are in pretty good shape for us right now, assuming that Cole's injury is not serious. Still in a good battle with the Braves. We're up half a game on them for the best record in baseball at this point. So we've got a week left here in September, and then we've got a week of games in October. So there's still actually 2 full weeks left in the season. So if Cole ends up banged up a little bit, I hadn't been looking carefully at the schedule before. I saw that off day on the 30th on that Monday and just assumed we would be at the end of the regular season. But obviously I haven't been counting our games, so there's still 2 weeks to go in the season. We'll get to finish up next month with Washington and Baltimore. But right now we've got 3 in Seattle and then 4 against Kansas City. And in the meantime, we are going to be... Actually, we're going to put Beeks on a rehab assignment until we find out what's going on with Cole. If Cole needs to go on the IL rather than risking losing David Garcia, we'll just replace Beeks with him. But hopefully it won't come to that, but we'll find out shortly. And Cole is out for a month with a sore shoulder. So I guess it could be worse, but it could certainly be better. So he's going to go on to the IL. Beeks comes up to the major league team. The positive thing is we've got 2 weeks left to go into the regular season, as we talked about. And then we are going to have a first-round bye. So that'll give us close to another week while the wild card series are going on, while we have a day off after the end of the regular season, a day off before the division series start. So I guess there's a chance if we get into a long division series, we could have Cole back for maybe a 4th or 5th game there, and certainly would hope that if we make it to the ALCS, we'll have him back for that. But definitely a bummer to lose another big-time player late in the season to a meaningful injury. And in the case of Cole, even more of a bummer simply because he really did have a legitimate shot at winning the pitching Triple Crown this year. Certainly would think that McClanahan will get another win and DeGrom will get another 2 strikeouts to pass by him, but would think that he'll at least end up leading the league in ERA and being a contender along with DeGrom for the Cy Young Award in the American League. And with Cole gone, Boone actually wants to give Yoendrys Gomez a chance in the rotation, which is fine with me. He's done a real nice job over the 7 games since he's been up. We kind of know what we have with Deivi Garcia, a useful 5th starter. But Gomez is a guy who looks like he could have potential to be a little better than that. So get him a couple starts down the stretch of the season and try to turn the fact that we're going to be without Garrett Cole for the last 2 weeks of the season into something positive by getting to see what Gomez can do starting, 3 or 4 games, probably most likely 3 between now and the end of the season. Guess it's clearly most likely 3 with 14 games to go. And we ended up taking 2 out of 3 against Seattle, and then we split the 4-game series in Kansas City. So now we're headed into the final week of the season in October, 2 at home against Washington, and then 4 at home against the Orioles to finish things off. Up 11.5. We've obviously clinched the AL Central, and we've got a pretty sizable lead now of 8 games on the Twins for the best record in the American League. So with 6 games left, that means that we've clinched the best record in the AL, and we are up 1 game on the Braves for the best record in baseball. Doesn't look like anybody else is a threat to us. So we're going to have home field advantage guaranteed all the way through the ALCS if we make it that far, and we'll have home field advantage in the World Series if we make it that far against anyone except the Braves, and still possibly against the Braves depending on how the season goes. Judge fallen back in the batting race, batting average down to 306. Clearly with just 6 games left, he's not going to make up 27 points on Adley Rutschman and pass a bunch of people, including potential Rookie of the Year Austin Wells. Judge, however, will end up leading the league in home runs for a 3rd straight year and in ribbies for a 2nd time in the past 3 seasons. Check in on Cole, and still tied for the league lead in wins, but he's obviously been passed in strikeouts, and he's going to lead the league in ERA. So the dream of a triple crown in pitching for Cole and the dream of a triple crown in batting for Judge are both all but officially eliminated here with a few games left to go in the regular season. And the injuries keep piling up for the Yankees here in the final days of the season. Jason Dominguez, who had ended up getting 117 at-bats as we put him right into the starting lineup, hit .291, although only 1 home run, but a strained shoulder, so he is out for 6 weeks. So his season is definitely over, and you can see that the injury time for Cole at this point is still 3 weeks, even though he's been on the IL for almost 2 weeks at this point, and it was initially estimated as a 4-week injury. So the chance of having him back for the ALDS is almost 0 at this point. It is 0 at this point, and I think the question now is whether he'd even be able to pitch in an ALCS or not, assuming we even get that far. And the season is finally over, at least the regular season for the Yankees. Taking a look at the standings, 104-58 record, so did end up with the best record in baseball by a game over the Braves, so we will have home field advantage for as long as we are in the playoffs. Judge hit 300 on the dot, led the league with 49 homers and 126 ribbies. Oswald Peraza, a really nice year, 45 steals, tied for the league lead, also drove in 70 runs with 27 homers and hit .272. So a lot of offense there for a shortstop. Judge second in the league in OPS. He had been leading, but Rutschman, with a strong finish to the year, got by him. Would think that Rutschman is a catcher with a big offensive season and leading the American League in batter war is the obvious prospect who will likely take the MVP award away from Aaron Judge at this point. Cole ended up leading the league in ERA at 254, tied for second with those 17 wins, and his 250 strikeouts was second. Certainly would have loved to see what he could do over the rest of the season, but with that sore shoulder still impacting him for another 2 to 3 weeks, as I was talking about, I think it's pretty unlikely we'd even see him in an ALCS at this point, so the team's going to have to get to a World Series without him to maybe get another chance to see Garrett Cole this season, which is a huge disappointment. So incredible record for the Yankees on the field during the regular season this year, but certainly a bittersweet feeling in our mouths right now with Cole and Stanton, two of our starting pitchers on the IL, a couple of key outfielders on the IL. And you can see Evan Phillips. We're waiting to find out an injury situation on the excellent relief pitcher. So not feeling like we're going into the playoffs with everything firing the way that we'd like it to, but we'll have to do the best that we can with the hand that we've been dealt. Ended up actually with a little more revenue per game this year than last season, even though attendance ended up being down a bit from the year before. Owner goal was to improve our team batting average. We ended up improving from 14th to 6th, so I think we made pretty good progress on that goal for this year. Taking a look at the final stats for the team, and I don't want the Yankees stat leaders. I would like the Yankees team statistics. Had our first 500 month of the year in October, so we're heading into the playoffs, playing some of the worst baseball we've played all year. Did end up first in the American League in runs scored and first in runs allowed, and our Pythagorean record was 106-56, actually 2 games better than what we actually achieved. So a really good year for the Yankees, without a doubt, but I do head into the playoffs with some trepidation, particularly with the fact that Cole is going to be out for the first couple series at the very least. We're clearly not going to see Schmidt, Stanton, or Dominguez at all in the playoffs, and we'll have to find out what's going on with Evan Phillips before we start deciding what our playoff roster should actually look like. So still have a lot of big decisions to make to hopefully position this team for a long run in the playoffs, and we'll find out what happens on that front in our next episode. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.